tell you what, it's on trips like that where you're most happy for autopilot. For the last nearly 3 hours I've sat in terrible traffic, being rerouted everywhere, and just keep putting it in autopilot. Relax your legs and just stay aware. But yeah, I'm a lot less tired than I would be if I didn't have autopilot. So I've been lucky enough to have this loaner Model S P90D for the last week or so, and it's given me a great opportunity to have a good drive and see if I made the right decision when we chose the Model X. Because when we originally looked at Tesla, it was the Model S that we were interested in, and it's only because of the size of the children that we have, 14-year-old boys, one of whom is already 6'1" and the other one's growing quickly as well, that we went for the Model X. But given a free choice, which one would I go for? And I've had some time to think about it, and as you can see, we had this beautiful drive up to Yorkshire, around the North York Moors National Park, and we were there for the weekend. And we stayed in a hotel that had the Tesla destination chargers, which was the reason we chose the hotel, because once you're in the park, obviously, to get to a supercharger, you'd have to leave, and I think it was about half an hour or 45 minutes back to the nearest supercharger, and so just being able to plug that in overnight and bring us back up to nearly 100% on the days that we were there was brilliant. First thing I want to say is I absolutely love the look of this car, and whilst we chose white on the Model X, I think red suits the Model S really well, giving it a more sporty look. And when you have the P version and it has either the grey or black alloys, I think it sets it off really well. And so it sort of fulfilled that side of me that I'd always wanted to drive an Aston Martin, and it felt like you were in that sort of car. Let's not beat about the bush here. The Model S's handling is much better than the Model X, but you know, that's almost by definition when you look at the cars and the type of cars that they are. The Model X is 3/4 of a ton heavier than the Model S. It's, you know, higher off the ground, and you know, it's not made to be a sporty car as such, although it does handle really well for its size. The Model S gave me full confidence, and it was a lot of fun to drive. You know, I wouldn't say it drives like a Porsche Boxster or any sort of roadster like that. You know, this is still a large executive saloon car, but going around these beautiful narrow roads, I never felt like, you know, it wouldn't get me around the next bend the way I wanted it to. It was pretty direct. You can change the steering settings from light and comfort through to sport, which tightens up the whole thing. And obviously we had the performance car here, so we had better brakes, which really obviously helps with these corners, but we weren't going too fast around here, even though, you know, we had ludicrous mode on. Ludicrous mode doesn't mean you have to drive like a lunatic at all times, and it's quite easy not to. You'd think there'd be a payoff between the two cars in terms of practicality, but as others have noted, and I've seen for myself now, the S's boot size is absolutely massive, especially when it's just the 5-seat version. I'm not sure that there's a huge amount of difference between the two cars, because you can't pile the Model X that high with stuff because of the way that the boot slopes down. And, you know, if the boot feels quite delicate when you're trying to push it down beyond the level at which the boot would close itself, and it sort of wobbles about and you feel like you might break something. So in that sense, practicality, I don't think the X wins out massively. They both have the front trunk, the frunk, and they both have some space under the boot. Maybe the X's space is slightly bigger on that side. And when you've got the 5th and 6th seats up, or, you know, in our configuration, the 6-seater, then there's barely any boot space in the X, really. So I wouldn't be choosing it just based on that alone. There's obviously a difference in feeling between the two cars, not just in terms of the handling and drivability, but the X is really futuristic, and it feels like that inside, as well as looking like that on the outside. And when you open the Falcon Wing doors, you definitely feel like you're in something truly different and special compared to any other car on the road. The Model S fits in more amongst other cars in its class, especially, you know, the Jag and the Astons that look similar. And the level of luxury on the inside maybe isn't all that great, you know, compared to other cars of the same price. I mean, if you were in a fully loaded BMW 7 Series, you know, that would feel a lot closer to being a Rolls Royce than this would. overall, the two cars obviously have their own demographics, and if you've got a young family, then the Model X is possibly the better car. If they're very young and you're planning on keeping the car for 10-15 years, as they grow older, the X is obviously going to hold larger children. If you're not planning on keeping the car that long and you've got younger kids, you could start with the Model S and move on to the Model X. And not forgetting the Model S can have 7 seats, although they're only really practical whilst your children are very young, maybe under 4 years old or so. And I would say in the end that I don't regret getting the Model X. It's perfect for us on our 4-year lease whilst the kids are still at home, which they will be for another 4 years or maybe 5. If I could choose between either of the two cars, I think a Model S P100D is probably going to be the more fun driver's car, but I don't think my family would agree with me.